how many of them have we talked to figure out if we're building the right thing for them. And that's ultimately what scales you. That's ultimately what makes the gravity effect. And it's the antithesis of time-based activity, right? When we write another blog post, it takes the same amount of time, whether 1,000 people, 10,000 people, or 100,000 people come to the website every month. Now we're several 100,000 people a month. And that's kind of the point. That's scaled. Yeah. That's scaled. Same time in exponentially higher results as we get known for the segment that we serve. So for folks that are listening to me, your biggest takeaway is you have to really pick a thing and get clear on who you're going after. We're all terrified of who we're not going to get. The reality is you don't get 99.9% of the people you meet on the street already. So it really can't be worse if you just pick something to go after.
I love it.
Not to be harsh, but that's the reality.
That's true.
Pull up your Google Analytics, look at how many people come to your website every month, look at how many digital web inquiries you got, do the math. You're already not fitting 99.99% of the people. So if you just go out there and say we're super awesome with doctors in our city between the age of 25 and 35 who are fishing residency and want to make partner, and you get all of those people, your growth rate will go up significantly.
Hey there, it's Mike Langford. Welcome to another episode of the Modern Financial Advisor podcast. On this episode of the show, Michael Kitces is with me for an in-person conversation that we recorded at the XYPN live conference that was hosted right here in my hometown of Austin, Texas recently. Now, if you're like most folks in the audience, you likely know Michael from Kitces.com, which is one of the most influential resources in the financial advisory space. Whether it's the blog, the podcast, the research, or the famous FinTech map, Michael and his team are producing a treasure trove of high quality content for the industry. However, that's not why Michael is on the show today. Although one of the core questions that I teed up for him is rooted in the gravity that he has created with Kitces.com, the actual impetus for our chat today is that Michael is a co-founder of XY Planning Network, XYPN for short, and a co-founder of AdviceBay. And I think what he and his co-founder Alan Moore and team are building with those two companies are genuinely transformative for the financial advisory space. And I think you'll agree after watching or listening to this episode and my conversation with Alan in the episode that follows this one. So grab a snack and a beverage and buckle up. You are absolutely going to love these next two episodes. Now, before we get to the conversation with Michael, please do make sure you take a moment to subscribe to the Modern Financial Advisor podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, the YouTubes, or wherever you like to get your podcast jam on. And if you have a question or a suggestion for a topic or a guest, hit me up. I'm basically at Mike Langford everywhere on the internet, or you can shoot us an email, podcast@finservmarketing.com. Okay, let's jump to the conversation with Michael Kitces. Well, Michael Kitces, so wonderful to see you. Welcome to the Modern Financial Advisor podcast. Great to have you on the show finally, dude.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate the opportunity. I'm glad we finally managed to do this.
Exactly. You know what, the really weird thing is when you've been in somebody's orbit and doing this, a lot of the same stuff as somebody for 15 years or so.
Because we lightly overlapped in your social wear days.
That's right.
Which literally is, I don't want to date you too much, more than a decade ago,
It was
right?
more than a decade. It was 2012 when I left there. And it's really wild when you're in a space oh, here's this guy, Michael Kitces. He's blogging a lot. He's becoming influential in the space. He's talking a lot about the same things we're talking about. This is great. And it's wild. This is the first time we've been on the show together. So I'm really grateful. First of all, for the audience, we're at your event, which is XYPN Live here in Austin, Texas, my hometown. So this is great. You're here on my home turf.
It was so important that we finally do this podcast. So we just figured we would locate the whole conference in your hometown, and then we could finally make this happen. It's an efficiency thing.
We'll fill you up with barbecue, and you'll go home with the meat sweats. It'll be fantastic.
I'm always a fan of the meat sweats.
That's great. It's great. So listen, I know we don't have a lot of time together today, but one of the things I've just been thinking about, and how do I have a conversation with Michael? He's talked about just about everything under the sun as it relates to our industry, been interviewed by a bunch of people. So one of the challenges, as you might feel the same, is when you're having somebody on the show, you're I don't want to ask the same question this guy's always been asked, right? So as I thought about it, I was
appreciate that.
One of the things that's really impressive to me, and I think important and relevant for the audience, is creating something called gravity, right? I always think about that, attracting people that you want to serve, that you want in your ecosystem.
Okay.
And you have done that in your career in the wealth management space, I think better than just about anybody I've seen, right? And it's taken time, right? We're talking about the socialware days, 2011.
So 15 years of compounding overnight success.
Yeah, exactly. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that, about what it takes to create gravity, to over time become a leader in an ecosystem. So you've chosen wealth management as your ecosystem, but many of the advisors here at XYPN Live are doing it for other ecosystems. I had a chat last night with a gentleman who's looking to do it in the divorce space, right? He's looking to grow his business and serving people who are getting divorced. So what if you could kind of walk us through the process of doing what you're doing, and what would you recommend somebody do today if they're starting out trying to do it?
Hey, look, the simplest, most direct answer I can give is, if you want to be successful in building your scaling your marketing, you have to pick something to go after. Like you have to actually pick something specific and concrete that you can really focus in on, right? I mean, to me, like the literal essence of strategic planning is, what are the things you're going to say yes to and the other 99% of things you're going to say no to because they're not in the plan. If you have not picked a clear segment that you're going after, you don't have a plan. You're just sort of spraying and praying out there, shotgunning out to the world. And there's a point where that sort of works for a lot of advisors. It just becomes like a time contact sport activity, right? A good old like Nick Murray game of numbers. If I just get through enough no's, I'll get to the yeses. And so candidly, like that works well enough that you can do it and survive, which is how anybody who's been in the business for more than a few years got here and survived. Yeah. The problem is, so from a nerdy marketing end, it not only does it not scale as the firm grows, it's literally anti-scaling, because what happens with that approach over time is, almost by definition, if your marketing is and growth engine is a prospecting based sort of contact sport, right? Yeah. I get out there and talk to people. Maybe it's COIs, maybe it's networking, whatever it is. We all got some of us still are door knocking and cold calling. If you do that at the most base level, like it's based on your time and how much time you have to make contact. So at the beginning, cool, lots of time, very few clients, no big deal. And I grow a little while, it's like, okay, time's a little tight, but I kind of carve out, there's a portion of my time for marketing, there's a portion of my time for client stuff. Then it starts getting hard, because now suddenly I have so many clients that I don't really have time to market anymore. So I've got to go hire someone to delegate clients to free up time so I can market. And then it really starts to fall off, because a couple of problems start cropping up at that point. Now the reality is, I'm not even just business developing for me now. I'm business developing for me and the staff I have to free up the capacity for me, which means my cost to serve is going up, which means I have to find higher dollar clients. Not only that, but the cost of my time has gone up, because in the business sense, my time was not that valuable when I had very few clients. But now that I've got hundreds of thousands of dollars, $500,000, $750 million of revenue, right? Like an hour of my time is like hundreds of dollars an hour. So if I spend a couple hours a week going out and doing my prospecting stuff, it's like, cool, that's like $2,000 a week of your time in marketing activity times 50 weeks. Like that's $100,000 marketing spend in your time. Oh, and then you also have to cover a couple $100,000 of staff time. And so you start adding that up, and you get to this point that most of us have experienced. When you get to a certain level of success, it's like, it usually shows up as something like, I built my business on clients that had like $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, and I got here. I'm financially successful. Like I make good money. I've got a running successful practice. And now for some reason, those same clients feel horribly unprofitable to me, and I have to have like $500,000 or $1 million minimum to make this work. And it's like, what happened? I hired all this team. I built all these systems. I bought the tech. I did the stuff. And somehow I'm like bigger and more financially successful than ever with the clients that I started with. And now they're unprofitable. And I have to have these much, much higher minimums. Oh, and then it's like a lot harder to get people with the higher minimums, and I have very limited time. Yeah. And so that's what I mean by this becomes an anti-scaling effect. Because when we build the marketing around our time and our time gets scarce and expensive, that becomes really, really difficult to continue to sustain the business. At best, you lift your minimums to try to make the math work. And then the irony is, even if you do that, after a while that breaks, because you want to get started. I mean, look, like if I get a million, if we're going to do AUM based, like if I get $1 million or $2 million of assets my first year, I'm like ecstatic for most of us. If I get to 10 million after a couple of years, it's going well. If I get to like 20 to 50 million a few years after that, like now things are really starting to pick up. So there's this interesting effect of what happens as we try to compound that. So when I'm at 50 million, I want to grow 20%. I need 10 million of assets. Like, okay. I'd be like, I'm getting $500,000 to $1 million clients now. I'm doing pretty well. So it's like, okay, I need like one a month to make that math work. It's like, cool, I do that for a while. Then I'm $100 million firm. It's like, well God, now if I'm going to do 20% growth, like I need $20 million. Like that's like a lot of new clients. Oh, and I have much less time because now I have 100 million under management. Then you get to like 500 million. It's like, oh my Lord, I need $100 million firm every year to maintain my growth rate. And it's kind of this phenomenon that I think anybody who's grown to this size starts to feel on their shoulders as a founder. Like I'm working harder and harder to drive the growth, and it like moves the needle less and less because the darn thing's getting so big. I call this the tyranny of the denominator, right? That denominator of that firm size gets so big that the growth rates get really hard. And then we start trying to figure out how to grow from there. And now it gets really difficult. I'm like, well, I can have my advisors try to start doing business development and grow. But the problem is the advisors I hired were the people that took the clients from me when I needed capacity while I'm business developing. So like they took the job because I'm the business developer. They don't want to become business developers. That was not the gig they signed up for originally. So I take these service-minded advisors and try to turn them into business developers, and either they can't and won't, or they do, and then they're like, oh my God, I'm good at business development now. Why again am I your employee? Like I could do this on my own. You taught me to hunt and fish and survive on my own. So now that you've successfully taught me to business development, here's the deal. I'm going to be a partner. I'm going to leave. And you're like, well, why did I make you a business developer? Oh, because I had to, because the tyranny of the denominator meant I couldn't sustain the growth rate because I've got this like ever-growing load on my shoulders. And just all of these are functionally problems that occur when we start with a premise of doing business development and marketing built around our time and the ways that it anti-scales, because the bigger the firm, the more expensive the time. And so when you have any time-based marketing strategy, almost by definition, your marketing costs are just going up and up and up every year that you grow. And the whole point of scaling is that they're supposed to go down, right? Economies of scale.
Right.
And all these time-based marketing strategies that we get trained in are extremely anti-scaling, and it's not like if I get a little larger, it'll get better. I get a little larger and it just gets worse. Like first it's hard to find the time, then it's hard to delegate. Then there's so many more mouths to feed. Then my minimums have to go up. Then all of a sudden, like I can have my best year ever and I have to grow the equivalent of my entire firm in the first 5 years in the next 12 months just to maintain the growth rate. Like it just keeps getting worse with those marketing systems.
And it really does lean into like some of the things you were sharing from stage last evening about really being thoughtful about your business, right? I think you mentioned really at the early stages that everybody throws spaghetti against the wall when they first start a business. They're like, I need clients, I need revenue, I will take literally anyone almost. But that's unsustainable, right? As basically what you just described is that model breaks relatively quickly and it becomes a hornet's nest or whatever, rat's nest, that's what it is, of a mess, right? And so in order to build a business that is efficient, that is sustainable, one that you enjoy getting up and doing every day, you have to have some level of thinking about like, who do I want to work with? Who do I want to serve? What do they look like? Yes, of course it can have an AUM frame to it.
Yeah, or at least, just some financial frame, right? In any generic sense, who I'm going to go after, or if I'm defining some kind of ideal client persona, target market that I'm going after, like I need to be able to define them demographically, right? Just around who they are. I need to be able to define them in terms of their problem. Like what is the common problem they have that I'm good at solving, that I can get known for solving, so that then you know to go there when you need it, right? You want the latest in practice management trends and actual CE that teaches you something, you go to kitces.com. Like we're really clear on what the thing is that we do and the problem that is that we serve. And you need to make sure that when you get clear on who they are and what their problem is, that if they come to you to solve it, they can afford to pay you what it takes to solve the problem. And look, like I mean, I see that crop up. There are advisors who are like, I'm drinking the proverbial Kool-Aid. Like I'm going to have a niche specialization. I'm going to go after a target market. I'm like telling you about your target market, and they start telling me about like, you know, this group that's like tragically underserved, and no one helps them. They've got all these challenges going on. And I'm like, can they afford what it takes to pay your service? And we're like, well, no, like they don't really make enough. They don't have assets or income. And I'm like, well, then it's going to get hard, right? By some means, obviously a lot of what we built here at XYPN and Advice Pay is like mechanisms to build business models and charge fees that are not AUM based, but it does mean you end up income based, like by their income or their assets or their net worth. I mean, by some means, they have to be able to afford to pay you what it takes to deliver the advice, or you're just going after a market that's not economically viable.
You know, it's funny. It goes back to the origin of this show of talking about how to help people transform to having a practice and then having a business. And that's a business mindset, right? That they're like, what is the total addressable market? Mm-hmm. And is this market a profitable market, right? What are they willing to pay? And most advisors, unfortunately, they don't necessarily start their career thinking of themselves as entrepreneurs. They think of themselves more as many of them get started as stockbrokers. But then the newer ones are still coming in more in a sales thought process, right? And they're getting better at the business side.
Perhaps, I mean, we see some interest in the business side, less the sales side. I mean, and we usually have some of this in the well-being and personality research that we do on Kitces. You know, advisors who've been in 20 plus years often came in under the kind of, this is a high income potential career. Yeah. A little bit of entrepreneurialism, build your own business, and a lot of like high income potential, and we're drawn to the business economic opportunity. When we look at the demographics and psychographics of people who've come in over the past 10 years, it is very heavily shifting into like the core advisor who comes in very service minded, very relationship oriented, and wants to help people, and has an interest in personal finance. But I want to help people. I like money things, so I want to help them with their money. And I've got a service helper mentality, not necessarily an income potential mentality. Maybe I come to this because it happens to be a service helper profession that you could make a really good income in the long run. So yay. But often are coming in from much more of a service help others. I like money. I like goal setting. I'm good at money and goal setting. I want to help other people with their money and goal setting because I like serving people with money and goal setting. Oh my gosh, and they'll pay me to do this. This is amazing. And maybe there's some business sense to it, but not necessarily build the business entrepreneur marketing. And I mean, that always shows up for a segment of advisors, but we find that's actually showing up less, in part because just employee channels are growing more. So you can actually be successful in the business without needing to have that.
Right.
Which is great if you're trying to come in, and a little challenging if you're the executive of a financial services firm that have hired a whole bunch of those people. Like, they serve the clients amazing. They have great retention. They're delivering great advice. And like, there's no organic growth happening around here. And I think, again, the disconnect to me is if we came up in the time-based, activity-based world, we say, well, then they need to spend more of their time on marketing activity, but they don't want to. It's not what they came for. It's not what they're good at. And I mean, more directly, again, if we take kind of the strategic business planning frame, if you look at pretty much any industry except ours, there's a fundamental separation of marketing and sales from service.
Right.
You don't, right? Like, you work with the sales exec or representative, and then when that closes and you buy the thing, they hand you off to the account executive or relationship manager that will handle you ongoing. And it's because, sort of twofold, great account executives, great relationship people are not always the best sales business developers.
Sure, yeah.
And conversely, the best sales business developers are really expensive, and you grossly overpay them if you fill their time with ongoing relationships. Right. Like, you want your best salespeople selling. Yeah. It's too expensive to pay them to do relationships. And your best relationship people are often not great at selling. So almost every other business profession separates sales from service. Like, my doctor does not prospect. Sure. They doctor. But we have that mentality. And I think it comes from the fact that we had all these time activity-based things in our roots. So almost anybody who's in a leadership position today came up in that world 20 years ago. And just candidly, I think it taught us a lot of really bad lessons. They were fine lessons to be a solo practitioner. They're terrible lessons in scaling an enterprise. If I want to think about scaling an enterprise, time-based marketing and sales is anti-scaling. Using relationship managers to do sales is a bad business model. Using salespeople to do relationship management is an even more expensively bad business model. And if you really want to scale your marketing, you have to build a brand for a particular market segment, because none of us have enough money to buy Super Bowl commercials and be great for everyone at everything. And so you have to get focused into a particular segment that, for most of us that did time-based, scarcity-based, I just talk to as many human beings as I can and play the game of numbers and hope that one works out, had been like taught and trained that anybody who has a pulse and enough money to buy your stuff is a prospect. And that's fine in a super time-based prospecting approach. That is a terrible way to do marketing, because it also doesn't scale. So in the firms that are struggling with time-based strategies with their advisors who don't want to do business development, try to do marketing, and it's the same everything for everyone message, and it doesn't succeed there, which is why so many firms now are struggling with low single mid-digit organic growth rates. Their top line looks better because markets go up and maybe clients add a little bit. But if you get to me, the purest indicator of health of a firm's growth engine is organic growth rate of client count, not assets, not revenue, because there's market and other tailwinds. Show me that you have a mechanism to attract client count. And the overwhelming majority of firms we see are 3 to 5%, most of which is referrals whack them upside the head, and they basically haven't figured out anything else.
No, it's 100% true. And it's I saw some other stats that say like 40% of advisors are in net negative growth, right? So there's a very big, strong bell curve there. I only have a couple of minutes left with each other. Actually, I think we're technically over time, but I want to make sure we talk about real quick what you're doing with XYPN, because one of the things you just described there, to me, is a reinvention of the way the business is done. You talked about sales needs to be decoupled from service. But the reason why sales and service are one is that's the way the business used to be. People were stockbrokers. They called, they sold you, and the next time you heard from me is because I wanted you to sell something or buy something. That was the relationship. It was a sales base. I'm going to tell you why this is a buy, why this is a sell.
The origin of a book of clients was 100 years ago, because you literally had a physical book of contact information of people who would buy the stocks that you had to sell that day from inventory. And the book of clients was valuable because it was the literal book of contact information of people you can call. I mean, it's like, the value of a advisory practice was the CRM data. Of who you could call to sell another thing to.
And so you've this is my observation of what I'm seeing with you in XYPN, is that you're reinventing this. It's kind of like, the stuff that we've seen with Elon and the electric cars and the spaceships, right? SpaceX. It's like, hey, what if we had to do this today? If we were reinventing this today, what would it look like? So I don't know, give the audience who may not be familiar with XYPN a high level of like, how do you see the business starting today? Because it really does feel like that. Like you kind of like reimagine the way we're going to build a business.
So structurally, XYPN is what we characterize as a advisor support platform. So first of all, what that means, you build your own firm at XYPN. I know everyone says you build your own firm and you can take your clients if you leave. But like, no, it's literally your own RIA. It's your own end. Like, you're not a rep of us. You don't put yourself on as an IR or an RR of something else. Like, it's literally your entity. And then you say like, well, I have no idea how to create and start up an entity. It's like, cool. We have a compliance team that does all of that for you. That's part of the offering. XYPN launched more than one new RIA every business day of the year last year.
Oh, wow.
More than 300 new firms started last year alone, because we've got an excellent compliance team that has done this in literally all 50 states multiple times. And they know how to get firms launched and started and take you through all the paperwork and regulatory compliance things. So first and foremost, like, you literally own your own firm. So you own your firm, you own your clients, you own your data. It's not like if you leave, you can take them with you and repaper. Like, there's nothing to repaper. They're your clients with your advisory agreements on your accounts with your master number. It's yours. But historically, if you wanted to do that, it was like building a firm out in the wilderness. Like, cool, you're building a firm. Here's a plot of land. Take a saw, cut down some trees, make a log cabin. Good luck with that. You're building it with your own two hands in the pioneering West. And so our goal with XYPN was to make that a lot easier and simpler from the support structure end. So we technically can't be your CCO. You have to be your own chief compliance officer, but we are a very strong, extremely experienced outsource provider on compliance. Yeah. So all of the stuff that you need, from registrations to ADV updates to state filings, just tell us what you need and we get it done for you, right down to you want someone to just literally be on the phone with you an hour or two every month and like pull up the checklist of compliance tasks and just do it live with a compliance expert and get your compliance burden done in an hour or two a month. Cool. Like you can do that. So we solve the compliance. So it's going to be your firm. So then we solve the compliance part, so that's not scary, and minimize how much time it takes. Then we give a full tech stack, CRM software with Wealthbox, financial planning software with Right Capital, portfolio management software with Orion, Holistiplan, like all the different things that are out there in the advisor tech stack. All either fully included with membership or at least included for your initial clients. If you get really big, eventually you got to pay for some extra licenses, but base licenses and clients all built into the membership fee. So we give you the tech stack. Now again, it's your firm, because it's really your firm's. Like, you don't have to use it. If you love eMoney more than Right Capital, cool. We actually have a discount with them as well. So we'll give some discount arrangements and structures for others. But ultimately, our goal, particularly when you're getting going, is there's so much coming at you when you're trying to build and run your firm that our intentional goal is to curate solutions for you and simplify the choice process so you can get to the most important stuff, which is serve your clients and grow your business, not build a spreadsheet to compare 7 different providers to pick the best one, times we now have more than 2,100 advisors in the network. Like, the thousands of hours that would be collectively blown up if all members did that independently, instead of we have a really awesome partnerships team that vets and due diligences every provider before they can even be offered to and through XYPN. So we give you a simplified package that's built into membership. We give you discounts on more. Ultimately, you choose your own adventure, but we're trying to simplify the choice set, or sometimes just literally save you money on what it would have cost. With 2,100 advisors, we have a lot of collective bargaining power to negotiate really favorably for our members. And then there's a whole community of other advisors that are building and running firms that you get to work with and collaborate with. And our particular focus is firms that are fee only, that have a deep financial planning focus. Often they're building financial planning first models, which means a heavy layer of subscription fees, planning fees, something along those lines, so they can work with people who don't already have accumulated a lot of assets, but have a financial wherewithal and are willing to pay for advice if you will just serve them. And if you're an advisor in your 30s and 40s, that's usually your peer network. So a lot of people come to us as basically like, I'm at a firm and they have like $1 million minimums and I don't know a lot of millionaires. My friends all want to work with me and they're not allowed to work with me because my firm says they don't have enough assets, but like they are willing to pay me. And my firm says no. And we're like, well, you just do it here. Like, we give you all the things and go serve the market that you want to serve. That's like literally knocking on your door at this stage in your career. So while often we help firms get started, the average member who joins us is more in the like 5 to 15 years of experience. As I still tell people, like, if you're really brand new to the industry, you can't start with us. There are people who do. I always encourage, like, go work somewhere else for a period of time, serve them and their clients well. In exchange, you learn the business and get some real experience. And so then, like, we'll be here in 5 years when you want to come launch with us. And you got a little bit more feet underneath you. But it's that combination of solving compliance, solving for tech in both in a very, very cost efficient way, a community of other advisors that are going through it, a wide range of just practice management consulting support services that we offer, a lot of related services that we support. Like, we'll do your bookkeeping for a nominal additional fee. We've got an investment platform if you really want to focus on the planning and don't want to do all the model design and the trading work. Like, we'll provide that as well. So whatever you keep in your firm, what you want to keep in your firm, and you can offload to XYPN whatever you want to offload to XYPN. And in the core membership, which we call Emerald, you just pay roughly $500 a month for that. If you want deeper service levels, there's some additional costs depending on how deep you want to go, but the baseline of the tech and the support is a couple $100 a month, which relative to most grid-based systems is very, very cost effective. And then advisors that want even a little bit more hand-holding infrastructure and don't want to run that, we have a platform called Sapphire, which is a kind of IAR affiliate style platform where you do plug in. So now, like, you really don't have to be your chief compliance officer. We can do that for you. we'll do the investment models for you. We'll just do the tech. We'll do the training. We'll just roll it out for you and tell you what it is. So if you really don't care and you just want to offload that stuff and not worry about it, we've got that option. But in the kind of true autonomy independent style for XYPN, like not only did we create an entity structure where you still substantively own your client relationships and the revenue associated with them so that you can monetize it in the future if you want, but we actually sign a non-compete that we can't keep your clients if you leave. I mean, not only like you can't take them with you, or it goes the other way. Like we're the ones who sign the non-compete, not we make you sign one, to be crystal clear that it's theirs. So the core membership model is called Emerald. The other is called Sapphire for the affiliate platform, but all built around this idea of when you really want to build a planning centric firm, you want to build as fee only. You don't want to deal with all the other product stuff that's out there. You really want to focus on financial planning for who you want to serve them the way you want and to charge what you want. And because we're not built around an AUM model, we don't come in and say like, why didn't you add more assets or grow more this year? First of all, it's your firm, so do whatever you want. You want to build a great lifestyle practice? Cool. We've got a huge portion of membership that runs successful lifestyle practices, some that want to build and scale further. And just we're not telling you who to work with or what to charge. And because of that, we just have a thriving ecosystem of members that have picked these hyper-focused specializations or niches because it worked for them and the kind of people they want to serve. So like they serve helicopter pilots or pastors or military service members or Chick-fil-A franchise owners. Like the range is amazing. The range is amazing. And getting all the way back to the top of the discussion, because when you get known for a particular segment of clients and you show up for that segment repeatedly with solutions that are really focused to that segment, that's when the gravity of the marketing starts kicking in, right? So XYPN super focused on a particular segment of fee-only, deep financial planning, high autonomy advisors who really want to drive and control what their business looks like and don't like all the rest of the stuff that's happening in the industry. Even from the Kitces.com and normally, like if you're looking for the practice management research and insights and CE that actually teaches you something, you go to Kitces.com. But internally, like, we have a name for that group. We call them financial advisors. It's a word we made up, like advisors, but advisors, because we wanted to find this really clear segment that we're going after of what they need and care about, right? They're fiduciaries, they're advice centric. Anybody in that world constantly feels the pressure of, do I know enough so that I'm not doing anything wrong? Am I serving my clients well? I want to make sure I never make a mistake and get anything wrong for them. I'm trying to build and grow the business. And so we wrote out a whole 7-point advisor manifesto of what we think it means to be a financial advisor. And that's who we go after, like very clearly, sometimes even outwardly in our messaging, certainly internally when we talk about like what program should we build next? Like, I don't know, what do advisors want? Like how many of them have we talked to figure out if we're building the right thing for them? And that's ultimately what scales you. That's ultimately what makes the gravity effect. And it's the antithesis of time-based activity, right? When we write another blog post, it takes the same amount of time, whether 1,000 people, 10,000 people, or 100,000 people come to the website every month. Now we're several 100,000 people a month. And that's kind of the point. That scaled. That scaled. Same time in exponentially higher results as we get known for the segment that we serve. So for folks that are listening to me, your biggest takeaway is you have to really pick a thing and get clear on who you're going after. We're all terrified of who we're not going to get. The reality is you don't get 99.9% of the people you meet on the street already. So it really can't be worse if you just pick something to go after.
I love it.
Not to be harsh, but that's the reality.
That's true.
Pull up your Google Analytics, look at how many people come to your website every month, look at how many digital web inquiries you got, do the math. You're already not fitting 99.99% of the people. So if you just go out there and say we're super awesome with doctors in our city between the age of 25 and 35 who are fishing residency and want to make partner, and you get all of those people, your growth rate will go up significantly because you're really not getting any material hit rate on what you've got. And then if you start going down that road, when you start building marketing for that segment, it doesn't have to be built around your time and activity, or you can do it in much more scalable ways. I don't go network to find people who want to come and learn on our platform. We create content that goes one-to-many for people on our platform so they can find their way in, which means I get exponentially compounding results without spending more time.
Perfect. Well, this is great. We just got the hook
All right,
was an
the hook, the signal
I
has
love
come.
the fact that you literally.
What is this like hand across throat signal?
We just
mean?
actually
They keep
had like
doing that.
Exactly. But you did. This is fantastic. I love the way you brought it home.
Awesome.
Thank you so very much for carving out the time today. I know you're super busy with the conference, but I
pleasure.
really appreciate it.
Awesome
Great stuff, buddy.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you very much for listening to and or watching this episode of the Modern Financial Advisor podcast. It's always fantastic to have you with us. Huge props to my man, Michael Kitces, for generously carving out all this time to spend with us. Because, look, when you're one of the guys who's actually putting on a conference like XYPN Live, where you have over 2,000 people there, it's a lot, right? And so to get a half an hour with Michael during that busy time was really awesome. So thank you very much, Michael. And thank you, Ray and team at Vocatus, for helping to coordinate all this type of stuff. I really appreciate them as well. Now, before you go, please do make sure you refill that beverage, grab a little refill on your snacks, because Alan Moore, CEO of XYPN and Advice Bay, is coming up next. So you're not going to want to miss that. Why not just dive right in? And Alan, by the way, really brings the thunder. You're absolutely going to love that episode. No matter what your role is in this industry, man, you are just going to want to like laser focus on that one. So awesome stuff. Okay, I think that's all I have for you for this episode, except for, you know the drill. Be nice to each other. We'll see you next time, which is like one more minute on the Modern Financial Advisor podcast. See ya. Bye.